interview with the Hodge twins. What can I say? It was a little colorful. That is their style. We're going to clean it up a little bit with my next guest. I am here with Elena Ricardo, a Broadway actress and singer who is currently on the tour of Beautiful, a Carole King musical here at PPAC. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'll try and make sure I'm not too colorful.
We had a lot of colorful language previously. Thank you for braving this storm. The short walk over from PPAC to our studio, and everyone is drenched. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm a little damp, but it's okay.
I love it. Still with the smile on her face. So Elena, I always love talking to performers about their background, sort of how they got started, and I love that your parents were dancers.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that and what that was like growing up with that.
So, of course, when I was growing up with it, like, I could have cared less that my parents were on Broadway and that they were Fosse dancers. Like, I was just like, whatever. And I resisted it as much as I could. I did gymnastics, and that was kind of what I wanted to do. And but all the while I was listening to like Frank Wildhorn and Jekyll and Hyde and just every musical theater thing. But and I just never really imagined that this would happen. And I'm sure my parents were not thrilled when I decided I wanted to do the exact same thing because they know how hard it is. But they've been nothing but supportive of my career, my short career since I was 20. So they're the best, and I feel so lucky that I have them to refer to.
Right.
They totally understand the dry spells that come with being an actor.
Right.
There's no like, when are you gonna get a job, Elena? Like,
yeah, they understand how it works, and they understand the lifestyle. It's you know, a challenging lifestyle, and here you are on the road.
Yeah.
Tour life can be hard sometimes, so it is nice to have family that understands.
Too. Yeah, yeah, and they've come out to all the most random cities to come and see the show.
Sweet.
So they're the best.
That is so sweet. So once you decided to sort of focus on performing and singing, did you decide to go to school for that, or was it something that you studied on your own?
I wanted to go to school and get a BFA, like I knew so many people did, and so I went to Emerson College for 1 year, and then going into my sophomore year, I booked Bring It On, the musical, at the Alliance. So I deferred from the next year of school, and
you've been working. Well, see, this is the thing about going to a performing arts school, that I went to a performing, a music college, and you're there to get a job in the industry, and those jobs don't come very often sometimes, so you have to take, ride the roller coaster. You could always go back to school.
And my parents are probably the only parents that would ever encourage this, but they were like, why don't you not go to school? Why don't you, or why don't we just pay for you to live a year in New York to see if this is even really what you want to do?
Right.
Because I think what happens a lot is you go and you get your BFA and you get in the business and you're like, wow, this really sucks. Like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And then you have a BFA. You don't have anything that pertains to anything else.
Right. Exactly.
So they offered that to me, but I was like, no, I want to get a degree, and I didn't. So,
so it all ended up working out.
Yeah, and for some people, a lot of my friends who have gone to school, they have totally succeeded by doing that. But for me, I thought that going to New York and just learning the old-fashioned way, the way my parents did, that worked for me. But that's definitely not for everybody. So
I think everyone's path, especially in this industry, is
so different.
So different. Some people just jump out the box and get their first job. Other people have to work for years and years. So yeah, everyone's path is different. Let's talk a little bit about Bring It On, because you did the world premiere.
I did. And
did you get to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda? Of course, he wrote the music for the show. He is Mr. Hamilton, of course. He's Broadway.
Yeah,
royalty now.
And Alex Lacamoire, who
yes.
also collaborates with him on In the Heights and all the...
What a perfect show for you, too, as a gymnast.
It was just the perfect thing for me to have left school for. You know, it was this vehicle where I could sing and dance and tumble. Like, I would have ever thought that my tumbling would come in handy. And it did. And it was one of the most physically grueling shows I've ever done. Probably will ever do.
Right.
Who knows?
I know, like, never say never.
I know, right? But it was so much fun, and that was the first time I had ever created something from the ground up. To really be there. When we do one show, we do a preview, and then the next day we're changing an entire dance number, and then doing that number the same night. Like, it was wild. And then, of course, working with Amanda Green and Tom Kidd, and Jeff Whitty, all these 5-time like Tony Award winners, and I just bow down to them every day.
What a great experience, especially for your first professional.
I just never knew how to breathe around them.
Yeah.
I never knew how to talk. But I saw Hamilton a couple years ago, and I saw Lynn after, and he was like, Ricardo! And I just about died. He did not have to remember my name or remember me at all. So I will take
hold
with me
on
forever.
to, yes.
He knows my name.
I know, amazing. So you made your Broadway debut in Mamma Mia. You played Sophie, or Sophia.
You know what's funny? I actually made my debut in the ensemble.
Oh, okay.
And I covered one of the friends, and I did that for about 7 months, and after a lot of auditions, because I had always auditioned for Sophie, and just never worked out, and then it just did one day, and so then for the next year and a half, I did Sophie. So I got to do this show through tour, and then in the Broadway ensemble, and then Sophie, so I obviously really loved the show, and they really like nurtured me, and I felt so much more ready to be Sophie when I finally got it than I would have if I had gotten the first time around.
Yeah, because now you've kind of gotten over the initial, like, oh my goodness, I'm on a Broadway stage, and the pressure, and you know, it's a big job. Yeah,
and I'd also, being in the show for that long, I'd seen the part and how it was done so many times that it really just felt like I had kind of created what I would have done while I was in the ensemble. As weird as that might sound, I was like, if I'm ever Sophie, I want to do this, and I would do this, and I got to do it, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. I know you always love being able to say, I accomplished a dream.
Yeah,
I know I made it to Broadway, and you'll always have that.
I'm sure you had this as an actor too. You achieve one thing, and then it's like, okay, what's next?
What's next?
And so, and Carole was one of mine. Was one of my dream parts. And I'm currently understudying the part, but I'm actually going to be going on this weekend, which I'm really excited about. And it was another one of those parts where I was like, nothing's going to be harder than this. So I say that now, and I'm sure another part will come up that will be harder. But I'm so proud that I can check Carole off my bucket list of parts to play. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely want to talk about this idea of being an understudy because it's a very challenging thing. You know, you are in the show currently. You're not like an offstage swing, so you have your role that you're playing, and then you also have to remember all the blocking and music and lines for this
two
main
other
character.
Yeah.
Oh, so you understudy two other roles.
I also understudy Mom.
Oh, amazing.
Surprisingly enough. So I know both of those tracks, and it can sometimes be a little like, okay, who am I? Especially in the first scene, because I'm in my regular track, but I also know Carole's lines and her mom's lines. So I could do that whole first scene by myself.
Just jumping into each character,
If they ever needed it, I could do it.
There you go. I love it.
So yeah, it's one of the most incredible jobs to have, but it can often kind of be thankless. You know, people don't often want to see an understudy, but most of the time they don't even realize it's the understudy that's on.
Yeah.
So, and that's what our job is to just make it be just as amazing, and fool the audience into thinking that
you do this every night.
Yeah, I do this every night.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're going to be going on this weekend. That is very exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have tricks for how you kind of brush up on the track before you go? I know I understudied for a little while, and I had a little book that had all my...
Who'd you understudy?
Well, I understudied the role of Mimi, but I played the role of Maureen. So I was already in a
That's so interesting. That
principal
principal part would...
It was sort of strange. It wasn't done very often. But I think... 7 people would have to call out of the show at the same time in order for me to have to play the role, and it of course happened a few times.
It does.
So I had my little tricks of how I would brush up. Do you have things that you do now that you're going to prepare for playing her tomorrow?
Thankfully, since I'm in the show every night, I'm hearing the lines every night, and anytime I have a free opportunity, I'll just listen and just kind of do the scene backstage by myself. As weird as that is. But I've done it so much now that I feel like if I needed to go in halfway in the show, I'd be okay.
That does happen sometimes too.
Yeah.
Sometimes an actor will have to call out in the middle of
I've had to do
show.
that. I did that as Sophie. It's terrifying, but you also just have to know, like, this is my limit, and I have an amazing understudy who is ready to go, and this audience paid to see this part done right, and I can't do that right now. And it's a hard decision to have to make for any principal. And as an understudy, you just got to be ready.
Come a little closer to me.
Yeah.
We like to invade personal space here. So that's very exciting. I'm happy for Providence to get to see you in the role of Carole.
I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. It's close to New York, so I'm hoping some of my New York friends might come.
Yes, it is just a hop, skip, and a jump. It really
That's what
is.
I keep hearing.
So let's talk a little bit about tour life. You've been on tours before. It can be challenging, especially as a singer. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the weather today. It's very rainy, cold, windy, and you may be in another city tomorrow that's dry and hot. And maintaining vocal health is very important. How do you maintain your vocal health on the road?
I'm kind of a boring person, so I don't really go out and party or do anything. I think that's kind of key. It's to
important.
have fun, but to also find a way to have fun that's not super vocally taxing.
Yeah.
So that might just mean like a movie night in the hotel room with friends rather than a bar.
Yeah, because even if you're not drinking alcohol or something, if you go to a loud place and you're talking to your friends and talking over loud sound, it wrecks your voice.
More than singing. I think singing you can do a lot more healthily than sometimes speaking.
Right.
And but all of us have our like My Pure Mists or steam
vocal
inhalers.
steamer and stuff.
Yeah, to keep it moist. I'm always, if I know I'm on for Carole, I'm always having apples and just foods that just keep things hydrated as well. For the most part, sometimes you're just at the mercy of, you're in El Paso and it's just hot and it's dry and you're just not going to sound the same.
Right.
It will never probably be a noticeable difference to the audience.
Right.
But it's always going to feel weird.
Yeah.
Or if we're at high altitude too.
Oh, that's true.
That will, just everything is harder to do.
That's true. Sometimes they even have like oxygen off
oxygen
stage
tanks.
just in case, which is sort of unnerving.
Yeah, our ensemble works so hard physically. They're doing all the big production numbers. So even though Carole is nonstop, they're the ones that are like dancing.
Right.
So that's sometimes really hard for them, for us to be in Denver or anywhere where we're really above sea level. So all of us have our little things, and for the most part, as an understudy, we don't usually get much notice. So I'm just trying to maintain 24/7 because I don't know if I might get a call tomorrow to go on or halfway through the show. So that's the other thing about being an understudy. You have to be ready all the time. Yeah.
It is a lot of pressure. It's a hard job, you know, and like you said, it's sort of thankless because people don't understand how much work and preparation goes into it.
Right. And it's just hard to explain to people too that like you have these 3 tracks in your head and and you're put in the moment to be on stage and to be this one character, and you want to do it justice, but then you're also on tour, especially, you're just thinking about things at home, or you're thinking about, you know, there's a whole life that we have that's not with us that sometimes comes into our work, you know, while we're on tour. So I so admire the girl who plays Carole here, because she's just a beast. She's so strong. She's so consistent. And she's incredible. I can't imagine doing this part full time. It's really it's a full-time job. It's a 2.5-hour show, but a full-time job.
It's so
getting ready for it.
That is what another thing that is hard for maybe non-performers to understand, that you may be on stage for just 2.5 hours a day, but your entire life revolves around those 2 hours, being physically, mentally, vocally prepared. Yes, all those things goes into, I mean, your entire life is just set up in order to be a
the
performing
best for
machine.
That show. Yeah, truly, that's what it is, and that's the hardest part of the job. I think once you do the work and you learn your lines, doing the part is one thing, but it's all the outside stuff.
Absolutely. So there's another kind of facet of your life is fitness. You are, you know, an acrobat or a gymnast,
former. I'm a little too old for that now.
In a past life, and you are a personal trainer. So how are you able to maintain your fitness, you know, routine on the road?
Well, it's challenging because I used to be a cycling instructor, so those classes were always my go-to.
Right.
But when you're on tour and you're in the middle of like kind of nowhere, they don't always have like cycling classes, so I learned to trust the treadmill. Yeah. And so I've become kind of a runner now, And you can always depend on a treadmill. Being at the hotel
Right.
or being at any gym, whether it's good or bad, there is a treadmill. So I like to do interval stuff on the treadmill, and I'll do strength training stuff via like videos on my phone. I have subscriptions to lots of different kinds of workouts.
Yeah, you can just
and
like
stuff.
pop it on in the dressing room or something, or in your hotel room.
Yeah, and for me, that's like the one thing I can keep consistent while on tour, because everything is a variable. So to have that workout be my like go-to thing, it's nice to have that consistency.
Yeah,
so,
it does kind of keeps you sane.
Yeah, and it was one of the best for me survival jobs to have in the city.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't excel at the service industry. I just know I wouldn't be good at that. So I found fitness, and it was such a good way to not only benefit myself but other people too. So it's just like it's a win-win.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to, when I eventually go back to the city, to maybe go back into that for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what are the plans? How long are you on this leg of the tour?
So I've been on the tour for a year.
Okay.
So far, which is the longest I've ever toured.
Oh, it's a long time on the road.
It is, I know, and I have friends and family, they're like, "Well, are you coming back?"
I know.
I'm like, I think. But this is actually my last week with the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
I
goodness.
feel very, very lucky that I get to end it with Carole.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy year, and it feels very serendipitous that I get to do this part in this city where we actually opened.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's
we
full
teched
circle.
Here. Yeah, we teched here and did our first week of shows here. Like, isn't that crazy?
Amazing.
Yeah. So it feels cool, and I'm gonna miss it so much.
I'm sure. Well,
I really am.
What's up next? Is it just sort of auditioning, waiting for the next role?
Yeah.
Do you have anything lined up?
It's taking a little bit of a break first.
Yeah.
Just going on some trips and trying to get my mental sanity back in a way. And then auditioning, just doing the grind. It's constantly trying to take classes, and I've been out of class for a while, so it'll be nice to get back into some work and just get better. Because when you've been doing the same thing, your muscles kind of know, I know the show at the back of my hand, so I got to be ready for whatever the next show is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that attitude. Well, thank you so much, Elena, for
Thanks
coming
for
on
having me.
GoLocal Live. You can check Elena out as the role of Carole this weekend in Beautiful at PPAC. We'll have all the information on golocalprov.com. Thank you so much again for being
having
here.
me.
Well, that is it for my show today. I will be back on Monday. We're going to have a little chat about the Academy Awards and sort of recap. We're sure some...
Hopefully they don't mess it up.
I know, hopefully no envelope mishaps this year.
God.
We'll see. So have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for checking out my show today, and I will see you then.